Everyone on the spectrum is unique and very different. The clinical definition does not really encompass and describe everyone who may have that diagnosis. And they deserve to have the best quality of life that they can have. And I think as part of society and as a community, it's our responsibility to provide them that. I'm Dr. Vivian Lee.
My name's Erin Brush.
Bayla Appleby.
My name is Kelsey Ferguson.
I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology at Carleton University.
I'm a mom to 2 young kids. I work at the CBC.
I am a board-certified behavior analyst at Sick Kids Hospital.
I'm autistic. I have ADHD.
As a professor, I have 2 major responsibilities. The first one is research with children and youth and their families, especially those on the autism spectrum. And my area of interest is in evaluating programs that help support and develop emotion regulation skills. And then the other part of my job is to teach courses to undergraduate students.
I'm on a team called the Ability Team. And when kids are in the hospital who have autism or other neurodevelopmental disabilities, we help support them in engaging with their treatment.
A clinical definition of autism is that it's a neurodevelopmental disorder, which means it spans across life. And individuals who are on the autism spectrum tend to struggle with social and communication interactions, as well as the presence of restrictive, repetitive, and circumscribed interests.
I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 7, and I was diagnosed with autism on November 18th, 2021.
Probably in my early 40s when I was first officially diagnosed. But when I was a teenager, I was told if I was a boy, I'd be autistic. But I'm not a boy, so it was never an official diagnosis.
I've always had very sensitive hearing, and social interactions have been really difficult for me.
I just knew I was different, and I didn't actually realize the impact of it, I think because it was not an official diagnosis. So I never really explored it, although I knew other autistic folks at that time who were diagnosed, and I saw so many similarities.
I'm happy that I didn't get intervention, but I could have gotten the accommodations I needed.
I really went back to get diagnosed because I had a lot of other things happening in my life. So I went back and followed up with an official diagnosis. And so some of the things I was experiencing were situational mutism and some other sensory overwhelm that I didn't know how to articulate.
Previously, the research and the diagnostic criteria were based on the presentation of males on the spectrum. But in the last 10 years or so, what we've realized was that there are females in the spectrum who do not look like the male version, and that they have different strengths and they have different challenges.
An official diagnosis is hard to get for a lot of people, and there's a lot of barriers into getting it. The way we diagnose autism is a collection of outward symptoms. That a lot of those symptoms are things that come out when you're in a stressful experience. And those stressful experiences aren't always obvious to other people. So there's not much, I think, understanding of what it internally feels like to be autistic. I can't separate who I am from autism. It's just who I am. I'm autistic.
Autism is a disability because society is not designed for autistic people to thrive. Loud music at parties, fluorescent lighting, social rules, and things like that.
Even to this day and age, in my 40s, I often have conflict related to tone, and it always surprises me.
It is difficult for me to connect with people who are my age and are neurotypical.
I'm not always great at maintaining friendships, but I find in the end, the friends I have are real friends. I have a different kind of relationship with animals than a lot of people I know. With animals, for me, there's no miscommunication. There's no misdirection. It's really easy to understand what they're thinking, and they're really honest.
I'm obsessed with my little cousin she's my dog cousin. Her name's Mabel. I'm obsessed with her. I talk about her every day, and I just want to play with her.
You know, it's a really interesting experience. It's having kids in grade school. It has triggered a lot of my past. School was really hard for me. And I walk into that school environment and the first day of kindergarten, I was like, oh my God, we're still doing it like this.
Pretty much across the board, for the kids that I have who have a lot of self-regulation challenges, school is almost impossible. I think the school system, the way that it's structured, and the expectations of sitting and engaging for long periods of time in non-preferred, interesting topics is really challenging. And I think there's more that could be done to individualize education for the kids who are really struggling with the school system the way that it is.
At the very beginning, we talked about autism in terms of deficits. What can't individuals on the spectrum do? And I think through my job and talking to parents and individuals on the spectrum, we really shifted the discussion to strengths. What helps you thrive? What kind of supports help you be the best version of yourself? What makes you happy?
When I was younger and working in IBI, which is intensive behavior intervention, the thought at the time was still very much that we had to change people with autism and that we had to make them more like us. And as I've grown as a therapist and worked with the community more and met more and more kids who have grown into young adults, I've realized that it's really just about finding connections and working together. And I've grown as a therapist because of those connections.
Autism is not a disease. It is a disorder, it is a disability, but it's not a disease that's gonna kill me. And autism isn't something that I'm ashamed of. I'm really proud of it because it makes me the person I am. And if I wasn't autistic, I wouldn't be me.
My name is Daniela Bauer. I am 19 years old. I go to school at Sheridan College. I study musical theater. I knew that I wanted to pursue musical theater when I saw Wicked. I fell asleep halfway through. And then seeing Glinda, it was amazing. That was when I knew, 100%. The most important thing I've learned is to be yourself and not try to interpret a role and copy and paste it. Like, play the role how you, as yourself, would play it. But also don't, like, get emotional with it because that can be dangerous. Play every character the way that you would actually legit play it. Don't copy it, because then you're just like everyone else. You're not unique. Biggest inspirations are Lady Gaga, Kristen Chenoweth, and RuPaul. Because they're all fabulous and they're just themselves. They're one of a kind. They're not afraid to look stupid or whatever. Like, they're just themselves, and that's what makes them a star. My biggest challenge that I've faced in my career thus far is getting rejected from a lot of auditions. Like, it's like you really get rejected 99% of the time, and then there's that 1% that you actually book something. It takes like so many auditions for you to actually get a yes, and I'm still struggling with the rejection side of this industry, but it's part of it. If you sign up for the musical theater industry, you're signing up for rejection 99% of the time. Melissa Bensick helped me to get where I am now, and my mom for funding and spending so much money on all of my training. The thing that motivates me the most when I'm facing challenges is my family, because I can always count on them to be there, and a lot of the times it feels like you have to do things like for yourself, and that isn't motivational enough. So to have my family in the back of my mind, my biggest goal is to make it on Broadway. And Mirvish, Stratford, my biggest goal is to just be a star, and I think I will achieve that. I know I will achieve that. Affirmations, manifestation.
I am most proud of getting paid to do theater now, and it's not just like service, it's a job. I really want to move to London, England after college. I might get my master's in New York, but New York is so overrated. London's where it's at, honestly. Europe, let's go. Not America. 3 biggest pieces of advice for anyone who wants to do musical theater is, first of all, find a hobby that takes place outside of musical theater. So not like singing, dancing, and acting, like take up cooking or baking, or like spending time with your family, or even working out, like something that can take your mind off of the stress with musical theater. Second piece of advice is to not compare yourself to other people, because it's so easy to get caught up in this comparison game. You forget all the good qualities that make you special and make you stand out from the crowd. And if you try to blend in, you're gonna get lost in that, so it makes no sense. Just don't compare yourself to others. I've been through it. Everyone that I know has been through it. It's awful. Some people that I know are still in that trap. So get out of it as soon as you can. Kind of clock those times when you're like comparing yourself and turn it into inspiration. My third biggest piece of advice is to protect your energy, protect your inner peace, because once you actually get into the industry and you're getting a lot of no's and you're getting rejected, it's a whole mind fuck. Like, it's a really dangerous game, and you want to find things that will protect your peace, like yoga or something, or daily affirmations, because it can mess with your head a little bit. Know who you are and own it. I've always known that I wanted to pursue musical theater. It took me a while to admit it.
Kicked out. Broke trouble there. Here's Spooner. Oh, here's the pass, and what a save. The full split save. Carson. Right circle. Gets the line in front. Quick kept it. I just can't believe this thing. I can't wait to see it. Spurs Lincoln picks up another win. And a big
Hi, I'm Michael Cicero, goalie coach. I played till I was 32. 21, I went over to Europe, Germany, Italy. Then I started teaching at 32, and that led me to develop what we call the 4 skill categories: mind, skating, net, and form. The typical player has 1 or 2 moves, if that, and they keep pushing those moves relentlessly. When I went over to Germany, I didn't know what to expect. It was going to be called the Michelin Man, because I saw about an average of 45 shots a game. It's all attitude. It's all attitude. Every goalie has rituals. Everybody, every player, everybody. I wanted to get to the dressing room early, stretch, because stretching for me was gave me mental freedom to do whatever I wanted to do. When I was stretched out, I didn't care what I had to do, I was doing it. My girlfriend at the time, she came to watch a game, and the next day she says, very concerned, "Why didn't you talk to me on the way to the game?" And I said, "Oh, sorry." That's when I get into my game state of mind.
I'm Brendan. I've been playing hockey for about 12 years, probably 10 of which have been as a goalie. I've played on 3 different teams. My greatest skill as a goalie, one could say I'm a defensive merchant. I'm very good at defending on breakaways and clamping up the offense. My pre-game routine, throw on my headphones in the car, blast music at an ear-deafening volume, and then I dry scoop some pre-workout, get hyped with my boys. I think the areas of my game that need the most improvement is my blocker hand, and also my 5-hole is very open. Showing up to practice every day and working on them in practice. I think the most important aspect of being a goaltender is the mental part. I think you have to be able to switch on and also reset your mental state after each goal, because everyone's going to let in a goal. I think another important aspect of being a goalie is knowing how to keep your teammates motivated in the game, helping them to stay focused. My goals as a future goalie is making it into higher leagues, like advancing to maybe AA and potentially playing overseas in China or Bangladesh. Yeah, a game I really remember was a tournament that I played in Notre Dame. Yeah, like this massive university rink, and it's really memorable because after we won, we all had like the big celebration and we worked really hard for it. I put water in my mouth and I spit it out, envisioning that's all the negativity leaving my body, and then I get ready to make the next stop. For a goalie in the gym, it's important to do a lot of leg exercises like quad extensions and squats. That will also build up your power.
If I'm looking at a goaltender, if it's myself, we didn't really see a lot of our own footage. But the goalies that I do teach right now, and the footage that we're looking at right now, or even the NHL, we're analyzing the decision making. That's the bottom line. It boils down to the decisions you're making.
Oh, I absolutely think there's some physical qualities that are really important to being a goaltender. I think having long legs especially helps, being more flexible than the average person. Long legs because you're able to slide across the crease more easily and cover more area. And flexibility is important because with being a goalie, you have to be able to stretch yourself and make more acrobatic saves.
So recognition, always being attentive, right?
Advice I'd give to a younger goalie is maybe don't give up, and also take stuff like the gym more seriously because it really helps.
To stay diligent, to stay focused, to understand the complexities of the position from the physical and the mental aspects.
My goals as a future goalie is making it into higher leagues, like advancing to maybe AA and potentially playing overseas in China or Bangladesh or some other country.
Hi, my name is Ben Jones, and I am obsessed with magic. I started doing magic when I was just 8 years old. I learned a simple self-working card trick, and for the next 2 weeks, I blew the minds of every person I met. Seeing the way that people reacted to it, the way their faces just lit up at something that I created, it made me realize this is for me. Growing up, magic has been an incredible creative outlet and social tool for me. In fact, for the better part of the last decade, I've been practicing magic for almost 8 hours a day. Using magic, I'm able to make real connections with people who I've never met in my entire life, simply by walking into a room and picking up a deck of cards. Now, as cool as magic is, and as much as I love it, there is one major issue. The issue with magic is that for the last 30 years, it's been dead. At the beginning of the 20th century, magic was one of the most popular and respected performance arts on the planet. Thousands of people would pack into theaters every night to watch illusions, mind reading, magic, stunts, and everything else that follows. But as time went on, people became less interested in magic, and over the course of the 20th century, magic went from being one of the most respected and popular art forms to one of the least. The biggest reason for magic's downfall, in my opinion, is the image that people have developed of what a magician is, and the beliefs that people have developed about magicians over time.
I think the battle that we fight as magicians is people see it as just something for kids, or the magician with the top hat, and I think that's changing where it's like more of a normal person, kind of like us, where you can come in, you can blow people away, and for me, I barely ever do magic for kids. Every once in a while, but mainly it's for adults. For me, I love to just make adults feel like a kid again, and I love to be the one to do magic for people for the first time, because then I know that they're going to talk about it forever, and they're going to have a different perspective on what magic is.
Now, as Jeff said, a very common belief is that magic should only be performed for kids. Now, although kids do often enjoy seeing magic, magic was never intended to be performed for kids, because kids already believe in magic. When magic is shown to kids, it's just confirming what they already believe to be true, that magic is real. While kids have a fun time, and they enjoy it, adults will experience magic in an entirely different and unique way, because adults have already lived through the heartbreaking moment of learning that magic isn't real. When an adult sees a magic trick, they're being shown something that they believe can't possibly exist, and if done right, for a brief moment, their entire objective reality is destroyed.
No, shut up. Oh yeah. What the f is that?
Oh man, that's scary.
Now, I don't know where this belief comes from. I don't know why it started, and I definitely don't know why it hasn't changed. However, there's one thing I do know. In order for magic to evolve, this belief needs to go away. And I believe it will. Now, it won't happen overnight. In fact, I believe it'll be a few decades before we see any significant increase in magic's popularity. However, I do believe that it'll happen eventually. Through my journey in magic, I've met hundreds of like-minded people that share the same passion for the art of magic as I do. A lot of magicians love magic more than anything else in the world. That's why we practice. It's why we spend all of our money to learn magic. And it's also why I believe magic can progress. With so many people who are so passionate about it, it's only a matter of time before magic not only goes back to where it was 100 years ago, but surpasses it. Magic has been around for almost 5,000 years. There have been millions of magicians, millions of different magic tricks, but yet it's less popular than it's ever been. On paper, it looks like magic is at the end of its road. However, I don't think that's true. In fact, I believe that it's just getting started.
Yeah. I'm truly like, oh my God.
contact all the time, defense and offense. Everybody's got to be able to come together and respect each other, because I can only hit you as hard as you can hit me. Who am I? My name's Dave Merrithew. I'm 30 years old, and I played for the Canadian national program from about 2009 until 2015, and I've just had phenomenal opportunities to play the sport in a lot of different places against a lot of different people, and it's been the best part of my life. Rugby has a position for everybody. So regardless of your physical shape, your physical ability, or even your novelty to the game, you're able to play. And so there's different levels it has. We have different iterations, from a 7-a-side tournament to touch game. 10s is a game people play as well. 13s rugby for men, women. It's just a phenomenal game that can be developed at any time.
I think it's helped my confidence a lot. Rugby, that's one of the things that has, helped me with, was basically I was quite a shy kid and particularly self-confident. And I think rugby and just being a part of a team, a band of brothers, and fitting into that, it teaches you a few things about how to accept sort of aggressive behavior, aggressive play, and remain calm. So I think that's another personal development thing that everybody should have a bit, is, to be able to play a tough sport hard, and then also to be able to keep your emotions in check, to keep calm. Rugby is the sport that demands the most respect between player to player, player to opponent. You're kind of forced to step up, to be brave, to play hard, to play fair, and to value and respect the people you play with, and it gives you hands-on practice with that sort of thing. And it's a place where you find lots of friends, and above all else, it's just great fun to play.
I think because there's so many different types of people out there, every person's a person. They want to be able to express themselves individually, and rugby, because of the variations of positions and the types of skills required across the whole game, it's got a position for everybody.
Teamwork in the sport of rugby makes a bigger difference than anything. You can build a brilliant team from the right attitudes, just through collective will and use of proper team strategy. And in terms of rugby relates to other sports, again, in rugby one doesn't do a job, one does 20 jobs, and in harmony with others, and you have to make mental decisions about how you're going to go about doing that.
You got to go out and play. You just got to go out and play. And I remember the first time I was holding a rugby ball. It's like a weird shape, right? And is it overinflated? Is it not? I don't even know to this day. But it's just such a fun experience to be able to pick up this sort of odd shaped thing and run around with people. And you don't have to play a game to play a game. You can just have the ball out in the backyard and have it around on your hands, or go to the park and just kick it around with your friends. You're playing the game. That's the best part of any game like that. Soccer, football is a bit tougher, but any sport where you can just pick up the ball and play, it's just so beautiful because it's fun and anyone can try it. So my advice to anyone who's looking to get into the sport is I have several balls available to give out.
Sienna Park. I go to Monarch Park Collegiate. I'm 16 and I've been riding for 6 years. I've been doing horse shows for around 4 years since I was like 12 or 13. My first show was on Tilly, where she threw me into a wall. Tilly, I had to change show horses because my coach at the time thought that she wasn't giving back like what I was putting in, so it was kind of not bringing us anywhere. So recently I've been showing Thomas, who's a less experienced horse or a green horse. We place, I want to say, top 6 because there's things that like are expected of horses at my level that I show, but he doesn't understand certain things, so that's why it's lower.
My name is Greta Hurst. I am 15. I go to Monarch Park Collegiate. My first proper open house show, I was pretty nervous for that. I think it's been pretty successful, not in I've won a lot of first place, but in a sense that I've grown a lot through shows, and I think I've helped my horses grow a lot as well. So last year, my horse he's got anxiety, specifically for shows, so every time we would get in the ring alone, he would kind of freak out, he'd bolt, and just basically trying anything to get me off his back. And he succeeded at one of the shows. The EMT was there. I was okay, it didn't hurt as bad at first. I sat for a few minutes, I tried to get back on, and every time I went to sit in the saddle, shooting pains went all the way up my back, which was not fun. I think usually when things go wrong at shows with Jack, it's gonna be his bucking or his bolting and things like that. With most horses, when they freak out like that, there's only one partner allowed to freak out at one time, and it's never gonna be you, it's always gonna be your horse. So when your horse kind of freaks out like that, I think all you can really do is stay calm and try to manage the situation as well as you can. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't, but that's just how it is. A lot of people ask me why I still ride him or think I hate him and things like that, but it's not his fault. It's not like he's doing it to be malicious or to be a bad horse. It's just he's anxious and that's how he deals with it. So there's this photo of me leaving the ring and I'm just laughing with my coach and petting Jack, and I don't know, I really like that photo because it just it showed that we still made it through, even though it was kind of a tough show. We still figured it out.
When things go wrong, I usually try to just push past them and persevere through them. You just kind of gotta put your emotions on hold and just keep going. So I've fallen on Murphy 3 times in 5 minutes. Yeah, so for the first one, I landed the fall. I thought I broke my finger, but after a little bit, it felt fine. The second one, I had just gotten back on, and then he did the exact same thing, except I did not land it, but I got up really fast. And the third one, what he likes to do is chase horses. He was chasing a horse called Patty, and he put his head down, and he actually ended up stepping on me. I thought my arm was kind of broken, but I got back on afterwards, and we did a jumping course. I still have a scar on my arm from him. Oh, and then a week later, exactly a week later, he threw me off and stepped on me again. I still love him though, he's really fun.
So I'm sticking with Jack this year, but I'm only gonna be able to do 2 shows because I am moving. So I'm gonna have to leave him in 2 months, which I'm not excited about. I've been working with him for 2-3 years now. He's I love him so much. He's my favorite thing ever, but we're just doing the 2 shows and we're doing cross rails because we're gonna see, so I usually do 2-foot, which is higher, but we're just gonna do cross rails to see if that helps so we can focus more on getting him to settle down then, so that he doesn't have to focus on the jump height and stuff like that. But yeah, it's gonna be tough leaving him. So we've been mostly working on just kind of getting ready for the show. It's not a lot of we have to be working super hard on jump height because obviously I'm going down significantly, but it's more just working on technique and just working on, if he does freak out, how to navigate that, how to figure that out in the show ring without falling off or getting disqualified, and being able to continue in a way that's good for him and me. At first I was a little just kind of annoyed about it because, well, I've done 2-foot shows for 2 years now, and this year was supposed to be the year we all finally got to move up to 2-3, and instead I'm moving down a level. So I was a little oh, that's kind of annoying. I was excited to jump higher because we do jump higher in the lessons. Jack is capable of it. It's just we don't want him to have to worry about the height in the shows as well as dealing with everything. So at first I was a little annoyed, but I think I also understand a lot about why it needs to happen. Like, it's gonna be so much better this way. And I'm gonna have my friends with me there too. It's not like it's just gonna be me alone. And I don't know, I think it's just gonna be an all-around better experience if we're able to focus on just him instead of the jump heights. I wanna get through an entire show, if not just a round, where he doesn't freak out. I think it'll be good for my mental health to like finish on a good note with him, for our last show to be like a good one. And I don't know, I've been working with him for so long. I'm really hoping it kind of works out this summer.
So this year I'm showing Danny. He is he's more experienced in the showing, and my coach wanted me to have like one good show season overall and just like to see how we do. I'm gonna be in the 2 foot, but hopefully we'll be moving up to the 2-3, which is planned. So I'd say we've been preparing a lot, me and Danny. In October, I leased him for a month. We just worked on just getting to know each other, I'd say, because we're still like kind of new together, so just working together and seeing how that goes. I'd say my goals are just to see like how far we can go together. Yeah, if we can possibly like win a show, that might be nice. But just I don't know, just having fun with it, I'd say. I want to keep riding as long as I can. Although I know it might be like difficult with going to university and stuff, but I'm planning on continuing.
I mean, I hope so. I don't know if I want to pursue it professionally, but I think for sure, like, once I'm older and have a job, I'll still want to do it for fun, just because I love horses, I love riding. It's always going to be something that I love, so.
My name's Margot Williamson, and I'm a painter. I feel like in some ways I didn't have much of an imagination because we all paint when we're little, and I just kept doing that. So I never actually thought I'd do that when I got older. I fast-tracked in high school but took every course they had. So I actually stayed the full length because I didn't know what to do, and I figured high school was probably better than people thought it was. And then last minute I thought, I'll apply to university, just maybe I'll go. And so I could have kind of done anything, but because it was such a last minute thought, my hand just kept checking art off on all the applications. When I went to these schools, it was just so exciting talking about art, and I had to make a portfolio to show. And I thought I'd just go for a year, but this idea that people around you were telling you it was okay to make art all day was actually incredibly liberating. So it's a little less like I went to learn, but it's almost like I needed an institution to give me permission to do this. And I just was so happy. It was such a pleasure and such a freedom to suddenly get to sink down and get a bit lost in that kind of art thinking. Like, art for me was such a privilege and such a pleasure that it was harder to indulge in sometimes. So to be around people who are like, okay, finish your art project. It was like being in a fantasy world a little bit. My favorite part is kind of working out what paintings to make. For me, the part that's just complete magic is thinking about it and sinking down into it. That always feels like the art part. Like, before I start doing anything practical or anything that will be presented or a product, like getting a bit lost in my notes and trying to find a bit of order out of the chaos of scraps of what you're thinking about or what you're driving towards. That's just like a completely wonderful place place to be. It feels like you're in a dark tunnel and it's a mystery and it's so fun. And I'm sure people that make art all would relate to that. I never quite know how to convey how pleasurable that part is. It just feels like you're in another world. I was kind of surprised when I started showing work, like how little I enjoyed art opening. Like I know people say they don't enjoy them, but oh, come on. Do I not even like this part? Like it should be a reward or some fun to get something out of that, but I think the private parts for me are the most pleasurable. So I love like getting lost in my notes and trying to see what's at the heart of them. And I love working with my friends, even just quietly together. Like often I have friends over while I'm painting and they're writing or something. And that feels really special to feel like you're working on something bigger that's not just about something you're working on. So that kind of connection with others is really, that silent connection is really helpful. So when I was 17, 18, I did think about doing something more useful or something that felt more tangibly helpful, like being a doctor, honestly being a politician. But the things I always loved best, like I loved math, I loved art, and I was like, why do I like all the useless stuff? But I feel so grateful in retrospect that like what I was thinking at the time is useless, of course wasn't, and I learned to see so much value in it, and I learned to appreciate it more. So I'm really glad I didn't go in the more useful ways. That would have made me so sad. It's almost like what I end up doing is almost irrepressible, like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that. And it's so, and sometimes I'm like, it feels like I'm following behind myself, being like, do I really have to do that? That part of me is so much stronger, and I feel like it made me a healthier person to be forced to respect my instincts in that way. I love that that part of me sort of showed me a much wider version of life than I was seeing at the time. In some ways, being a painter in Toronto, it was a little always like COVID-19 because you're kind of in the woods and you're alone and you have intense friendships, but they're on email. So I don't know, it's such a solitary activity. Like one of the reasons I think I even became good enough to be a professional painter is because I just loved being alone so much. Like the studio was always such an escape. Having that kind of isolation, it's just like such a gift. And I mean, everyone had such a different experience, but for me, it was this chance to get what I always want, which is to have more time and to slow time down a little bit. I guess in all culture, like you can use culture to show things that you know, or to ask questions, or to find something. And for me, my favorite part is finding something. And I think that takes a lot of faith and endurance to trust that you're gonna find something at the end of like a chaotic path of investigation where you're creating. Just the way I work, it's quite intuitive, so you do need a lot of faith to spend a few years developing something long enough and having patience to do that, trusting that you'll find something at the end. But it's so rewarding, like just for the kind of intelligence I have and for where my work is best. If I'm trying to show people something, it's never that interesting, especially not to me. But if I'm finding something, then I feel like if it's surprising me, then I feel like it'll have a better chance at surprising other people too. Like I've been working for 20 years, so when you're starting out, you're like, is this what it feels like to be finished a painting? Is this what it feels like to be finished a art show? So it was definitely much more overwhelming in the beginning. There were like, probably there's less faith and there's less confidence and there's less patterns. There's less like, oh, this always happens at this time, or oh, this is when I question everything and throw everything away and start again. Like you get so familiar with those patterns if you're patient and have endurance. So almost nothing stressful now, honestly. But in the beginning, like a lot of that stuff was stressful. Even if you're having such a nice time alone in the studio, it's hard to understand when to have faith with your own work.
It started with a trip to Panama, and then they did these trips, and they just sort of grew and got bigger and bigger. And they became quite popular doing their travelogues. And actually, within Toronto, they became almost a household name. And it sounds funny, but again, back in those days, they didn't have TV, and people were very interested in what was going on in the world. So to have these young guys show movies and photographs of the world was really, really popular. My name is Hugh Wilkins. Well, my dad and my Uncle Warren, when they were in their early 20s, they were very enthusiastic about discovering the world and traveling. So they started doing trips, and they took a movie camera with them and took lots of pictures. They would go to these interesting places that people in Toronto had never been to before. So they were in university, and when they got back home, they'd have what they called travel logs. So they'd go to church basements, or they'd go to the Eden Auditorium, and they'd do a slideshow and a movie show, and then give narration and tell stories about their trip to the audience while they showed these movies and these slides. It's funny, if you talk to people of that generation, they all know the Wilkins brothers, because for a good 5 years, they were a real source of entertainment, and people would come out and see the show.
So they would draw these amazing crowds, sometimes up to 1,000 people. And they charged, for people to come and see it. This was entertainment. And so it became a self-funding mechanism for them to actually collect income. And in time, they had enough to buy an entire Land Rover, which then really was the backbone for the big trip around the world.
My uncle got a job on a freighter. My dad got a job on the freighter as well. And they took the freighter across to Sweden. And then they drove down through Denmark and through Holland, then across into England. After they had finished their time at Coventry, they started driving and went through France and Germany, down through Austria and Switzerland, through Yugoslavia, through Greece, and then they finally got through Turkey into Jerusalem. And they spent Christmas in Jerusalem, and then they traveled in Jordan and went to Petra and some of the sites in the Middle East. Back then you could do interesting things. They went to Stonehenge and they slept in Stonehenge, or they went to Petra and they walked in the ancient city. And they were able to do things. When they went to Panama, they went to Nicaragua, and they thought they'd like to meet the president. So they knocked on the Palace of the Somozas and got to meet the president. We've got pictures of my dad shaking hands with the president of Nicaragua. You couldn't do that these days. They went to Israel and Palestine, Lebanon. They went through Syria and then into Iraq and then through Iran and then through Afghanistan. Because there weren't roads or bridges, they had to ford across rivers. In the Cache River, the river was quite high, so they realized they were going to have some problems. So they took all the stuff out of the car and they transported it by hand across the river. And then they revved up the engine and tried to drive across. The water started to pick up the car and to push it down the river. And, could you imagine being in Afghanistan in 1951 and have your car destroyed in a river in the middle of the desert? So I remember my dad saying that they were there and there was nobody. And then all of a sudden all these people started to arrive, and they helped stop the car from drifting down. And they got to the other side eventually, and they were very lucky they did. The car was soaked and the engine was waterlogged, so they had to take the engine apart. So I think they were pretty stressed during that episode, and it was a real challenge for them to be able to do that, because the consequences of number one, losing your car in the river, and number two, getting the car across the river but then having it not be able to start or getting it damaged would have been a real problem. I'm not sure what they would have done.
These boys were resilient. They had grit. I mean, the kinds of things that you'll see them go through if you watch these videos, it's unbelievable. There's no way that I can imagine being in that position myself.
They traveled through Afghanistan, across rivers, and then they went through the Khyber Pass into Pakistan, through Lahore, and then into India. What they do is they'd send the film back to their parents by mail, which would take a long time, a couple of weeks. And then they'd get a telegram from their parents just to confirm that the film worked out. So they spent a lot of time figuring out how they were going to film and what they were going to film. And you got to remember, the price of film was expensive. Although Kodak was sponsoring them, they didn't have unlimited film. So when the cameras were rolling, they had to make sure it was the shot they wanted to have. So they were traveling through India, they went to the Taj Mahal and to Rajasthan, and they sent the film back, and then a couple of weeks later they got word back from their parents saying, nope, the photos from that batch were no good. So they had to go back and redo it, and it's kind of funny because they tried to make it entertaining. So what they did was they had a film, a picture of my uncle, and he's smiling in front of the Taj Mahal, and he sort of walks backwards and he falls into the pool, which is not the proper thing to do, and that was a funny film. So when they found out the film didn't work, they had to redo that. So they went back, and this time my dad was the one who fell into the pool, but it's got some funny pictures, and all the local people are kind of looking at them, what are you doing swimming in the pool beside the Taj Mahal? So they took a boat across to Rangoon, and they spent a little time there, and they drove around Malaysia, and they went to a rubber plantation and a refugee camp, and they went with the British Army looking for rebels in the jungle. And then they went to Singapore, which was very modern and amazing. And then they went to Thailand, and then went to Cambodia, and went to Angkor Wat, and they went to Vietnam. When they got to Japan, my dad got sick. And I think quite often they wouldn't eat much. If you look at the photographs, they get very, very thin by the end of the trip. And I think my dad was almost malnourished, but he ended up getting jaundice. I think initially they had planned to go from Japan down to Australia and then go home from Australia, but they didn't do that. And I'm not sure what the reason was, but it's probably because they were worn out. So it did take its toll on them. But again, you have to remember back in 1951 and 52, the world was a much poorer place, and there wasn't the infrastructure, and it wasn't a leisurely, relaxing vacation, that's for sure. It was a real trip. And they took a freighter from Japan to San Francisco, and then they drove to BC, through the Rockies, and across the prairies back home to Toronto.
You know, the kind of adventures that they had, I don't think anyone could replicate again. The period of time where they were traveling, the kind of technology that they had where they were just on the cusp of things, it's not something that, someone could replicate.
Well, it's a pretty exciting story. It's important to the Welcomes family because it really demonstrated what my dad and my Uncle Warren were all about and what they're like, and the sense of adventure, and is a pretty remarkable thing. I'm sure there were other people who had driven around the world before them, but it was not often done, and it was pretty remarkable to take a car and to drive through these areas. And again, you have to remember it's right after World War II, and people didn't travel the way they travel today. So it was a pretty daring and pretty exciting thing to do.
So, come and see the next travelogue. Yep, that's it.
My song is love. Love to the loveless shore, and it goes up. You don't have to be alone. Your heavy heart is made of stone. And it's so hard to see clearly. You don't have to be on your own. You don't have to be on your own. And I'm not gonna take it back. And I'm not gonna say I don't mean that. You're the target.
Hey honey, you almost ready?
Yeah, sorry, just have to get my stuff.
Have you reached out to Ryan at all?
No, he's more of a friend of a friend now.
Well, you know it's never too late to get in touch.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you don't have to be so dismissive about it.
Sorry, I know, you're right. I don't really think he'd want to talk. I mean, I kind of just ditched him with like no warning or anything. I kind of just threw it all on him at once. I don't know.
You know it's not like that. I mean, he'd love to talk to you. I'm sure of it. He really just doesn't get it, right? I mean, things were a lot easier for him there. And, you know, you'll have fun. You really will. You'll love it. Like, all you do is play guitar anyway, all day. And now you get to do that at school, right?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I know it's hard. But don't forget you have that meeting with the guidance office before your first class, okay? All right, I'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
You're always listening to that total trash.
No, it's not trash. It's just because it's not about the love of the Lord doesn't make it bad music. Hey, you know what? Don't bash it till you try it. You may like it.
Yeah. Okay, you ready? For what we are about to receive, may the Lord make us truly thankful. Amen.
Amen.
Be real for real. One step away from be real. Let's be honest with our friends about what we are constantly doing with no privacy. Download Be Real for Real now on your local device. Never have to hide anything again.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eggshells, and I'm here to help manage your stress. Stress is a natural part of all our lives. It's our body telling us to take action. But you know what I say to that? I say enough! No longer will I stand here and take orders from my body. I'll do what I want! Feeling bad about that essay you left to the last minute? It happens. Just delete the file and skip the class. Bombing that test you didn't study for? Rip up that test, mindfully meditate for 13 hours, and you'll feel better instantly. I bet you thought I'd have a slideshow, huh? Well, I was asked for one. But you know what I did? I deleted the email and I ran a marathon. Oh, have I mentioned exercise yet? Well, now I did. Exercise goes a long way, and I do a lot of it. Did you see that? Your teachers want to silence me. Real mature. I cannot and will not stop talking. I am literally incapable of doing so. However, my time here is up and I have to go. I'm climbing Mount Everest at 4, so I hope you all learned something valuable here today. Thank you.
I feel like Romeo, cause I know that she done me cause she told me so. I feel like dancing, I feel like Rosito. Every night she got me like a rodeo. I said, ooh, guess God done bless me, I do. Girl, you're so sexy like, ooh. Girl, no one gets me like you. Hey, it's a good day to be anybody if your name is me. Shout it from the rooftop shamelessly. I love her and she loves me. Hey, it's a good day to be alive. No lie can't play with me. If I die, happily.
2 kegs should be just fine for lunch. Yeah, just 2 kegs. Yeah, I don't. Brent, I'm gonna have to call you back, man. Give me 1 second. You may enter.
Hi.
Hey, dude, what's going on? Come on in. Hey, dude, what's going on?
Mr. Hawksworth, right?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, man, but no, don't even worry about it, dude. Call me Curtis. Everyone calls me Curtis.
Curtis? Curtis?
Oh, hey, man.
So, what did you want to talk about?
You know, I just wanted to make sure you're settling in okay, you're comfy, new school and all.
Well, I mean, it's only the first day. I haven't even had a class yet, so I don't.
Valid, totally valid. Well, just want to make sure you know that you've got guidance if you need it.
Are you listening to Crash in the Boys?
Yeah, man. Shit, metal, man. Summertime by Sex Bomb.
Yeah. Aren't you a guidance counselor?
Oh, priority number uno is that you know that you can talk to me, swearing and all. I mean, in this place only.
Sure. Thank you for your time.
Hey man, have a good day. See you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Lovely Locks Dry Shampoo for fabulous hair and max volume. When in a rush, no need to shower, Lovely Locks has got your back. Lovely Locks removes oil on your hair. Even though there are ingredients to help your organs fail, your hair will never look and smell as good, even if you're a dirt squirrel and haven't showered in 5 days. Looking to never have to shower again? Now you can with Lovely Locks Dry Shampoo.
I wonder what he's listening to.
Must be something upbeat and joyful.
Blood, death, drugs, alcohol, violence, guns, dogs, murder, pew, pew, pew! Ah!
Does this scene seem familiar? Every year, the lives of 1 in 1.5 children are berated, violated, and destroyed by death metal. People struggling with death metal may have sudden outbursts of anger, longings for dyed hair, depression, cravings for monster energy, and random erratic screaming. If you or someone you know is struggling with a death metal addiction, talk to a professional as they need help. Desperately.
A message from the Government of Canada.
Ah, right, that's today. I'm so sorry. It's Isaiah, right?
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
No, no problem. I'm Mr. Sharp. Welcome to the class.
Nice to meet you.
Come sit down. Come sit down. We're just warming up right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so just while everyone's warming up, do you think you could maybe play like a little ditty or a riff for us, just so we can get a sense of your skill level and where you'll fit in the class?
Yeah, of course. You want me to use this guitar?
Well, we have an electric one plugged in the back if you'd rather use that.
Yeah, sure, I can use
Perfect,
that.
thanks so much.
No, sure.
Wow. Okay. That was impressive. Here, let me think about it for a minute, and I'll place you in the band. How would you feel about taking a lead role?
Well, buddy, getting lead role on your first day, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
You know, someone like you up there, I'll stand out even more.
Okay, yeah.
Why do you even bother playing? You know I'm the best in the class.
Okay, don't really know.
Cleo, you're so damn petty. Everyone can see you're just doing this for attention. Go do that shit somewhere else. Sorry about that. Cleo's in the house. Don't let it bother you. He does that to everyone.
Thank you, yeah.
Oh, I'm Damien, by the way. You said your name's Isaiah, right?
Yeah, Isaiah, yeah. Thank you, too. Very colorful.
Yeah, no worries, man. You said you're transferring from where again?
Catholic school.
Oh, Catholic.
Holy Trinity.
Catholic school.
Yeah.
I'm going to meet some friends at a park. You're free to join if you want.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, I'd love to.
Just meet me outside the school then.
Sweet. Thanks.
See you then.
Sorry, what's your name?
I'm Damien.
Damien. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It's time to go beyond what a robot can do. Here at Peer, we strive for innovation to the highest degree. Today, we bring you the all-new, revolutionary, never-seen-before, spearheading, trailblazing iHome Buddy. The iHomework Buddy utilizes the top-of-the-line AI and processes very complicated homework at amazing speeds. The iHomework Buddy can complete tasks in a variety of subjects, such as math, English, and of course, math. If you are ever running late with an assignment, boom, iHomework Buddy. Maybe you just don't understand how to do it. Boom, iHomework Buddy. And perhaps you're just too lazy to do all the work, you loafing sloth. Just simply input your problems into iHomework Buddy and they'll all be solved. For these services, it's just at a cheap price of $15,000. Still not convinced? Here are some satisfied customers.
What do you think about the iHomework Buddy?
It's completely
good
at the work. I mean, every single answer.
Right.
I mean, I guess the homework buddy gets its work done on time, but...
Are you me? I got a 2 on my assignment. This piece of sent me back $1,500. Every single answer was wrong.
This customer is clearly a little upset. The iHomework Buddy goes above and beyond, redefining what a homework aid can do. Be innovative, be the future, and buy our product.
Take my hand and come with me because you look so fine that I really... I say you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. 4, 5, 6, come on and get your kicks now. You don't need them.
From the studio, brought you the first address. The producers of Mandatory Fun bring you yet another gruesome horror story.
Late. Damn it, I'm late.
Late. Oh. Late. Costa.
Yeah. It always starts with a hey, turns into how was your day, turns into meet in my place, turns into you and me drinking rosé, turns into how did you sleep, turns into it's been a week, turns into gave you a key, turns into conversation talking about what a week. I found a thing when I wasn't even looking for a thing. I keep thinking about it in my brain. How I'm supposed to know how deep? How I'm supposed to know how deep? I fall, step up in my arm, I beat. Didn't mean to take that leap, my fault. How I'm supposed to know how deep? How I'm supposed to know how deep? I fall, how'd you make my heart skip beats? Didn't mean to take that leap, my fault. Now I ain't saying I ain't into this. I'm thinking we can slow it down a little bit. In your place, but I'm feeling like I live in it. Butterflies in your stomach got you giggling. Do you really see us together? I think so. Are you gonna love me forever? I don't know. But if it was up to me, I'd take a time machine, come back and tell you exactly where this goes. How I'm supposed to know how deep? How I'm supposed to know how deep?
It's so bad. I wouldn't worry about it. Too much. You'll be over soon though.
Yo, dog!
Yeah, Damien, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, man?
Not much. You be good.
I'm good.
Who are you?
Isaiah.
You good?
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Jackie.
How are you?
Put your bag down?
I'm good. We're just chilling here. Oh, you brought your guitar?
Yeah, I came from music class.
Are you like an old hardwood?
It's good, yeah. Yeah, like it, left my classes. Fun. Yeah.
Listen, we already just gave me a big essay to do 2 days.
No. Fuck, I know.
That's so bad.
2,000 words is wild.
Yeah, it's 2,000.
No, you know, you said it for the whole class.
2 days. Oh.
You have 2 days left. I was doing 2 days.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Do I have to get my... Do I have to be bibliography too?
Yes, bro. We're excited and everything. In-text citations, everything.
I'm literally gonna jump on middle thing!
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Oh, I don't have time.
All good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Isaiah. Isaiah, man. Hey, man. It'll be okay.